I'm standing on the train and look at all these men. What happened to giving up your seat for women? No man offered me a seat. Excuse me, are you going to get up?
What?
Are you going to get up?
Are you pregnant?
No.
I don't know if this TikToker is doing a bit, but I have seen variations of this complaint online. Usually on Reddit, a lot of women are upset, and also on Twitter. Now, the reason they're upset is that men don't follow the gender role. I wonder why that is. So, after 10 years of feminism, where the culture, the mainstream media, school teachers, celebrities, social media, everyone was pushing the idea that women are strong and empowered, but apparently not strong enough to get their own seat. Like you gotta provide it for them. In other words, treat them like aristocracy. You know, like there's no reciprocation here. Like there's no a two-way street. It's basically you as a man. You just have to give. The reality is that giving your seat is something that gentlemen do in a society where you have gender roles. And men behave like gentlemen and women behave like ladies. But again, as I'm saying, it's not a two-way street anymore. You don't have to behave like a lady. You have to behave in a way that's entitled. And you also have to ignore the last 10 years of culture where apparently giving your seat or holding the door open is called benevolent sexism. So, like, apparently whatever you do as a man, it's a failure. If you give your seat, it's benevolent sexism. If you don't give your seat, you're an asshole. So I guess, like, a lot of men are just choosing to become an asshole. But it is interesting that, indeed, it does seem that the culture has managed to create change. I noticed that a lot of people, especially on the left, they want change, but they don't really want it. Like, they're trying to push for something, but they never acknowledge that what they're doing is actually changing and influencing society. Like, I don't know if you follow a lot of leftists, but they seem to live in the perpetual past. Did you notice that? Like, every single time they're talking about, you know, like, despite the fact that multi-billion dollars have been poured into the anti-racism industry, they still think that racism is exactly the same. Like it used to be, like, in 1940. Right? Despite the fact that multi-billions of dollars have been poured into the anti-sexism industry, we still live in a rape culture. Like, they like to live in this perpetual time stop where nothing changes. But in reality, a lot of things change, right? Like, it only takes to get a couple of men fired for shit that they were exposed to do online, you know, like manspreading. Like, there was a case in New York City where actually a man got arrested. There was a famous actor that was in the bus, and he was spreading, and that blew up, right? So it only takes like a couple of these things for men to go like, okay, well, we don't live in a world with gender roles anymore. As such, I can do whatever I want. I got freedom now. You know, feminism is for men as well, so we got freedom. So what are the things that women complain the most about? Because this one with the seat is a new one, but there have been other complaints that are quite frequent. The biggest one is for men not paying for her dinner. Like, this is the number one that I see on Twitter a lot of time. They go out with the man, and then they get upset because he wants to share the bill. Well, the reality is that when the idea of paying for the dinner existed, going to the restaurant was a very rare occasion. Most people wouldn't date as often, right? You didn't have dating apps. So relationships were more stable. And usually when a woman went out with a man, she did so because she was interested in him. But I don't know if you noticed, a lot of ladies were making YouTube videos and they were posting on Twitter and on Reddit saying that they actually go out with men in order to get free lunches. Did you guys remember that? I mean, it was so often that it was kind of difficult not to miss. Do you not think men see that? Like, do you not think men talk with each other? Do you not think men have other friends that happen to be women and they tell them? So, like, if you start doing this, if you start going out with men just so that they can buy you dinner, what do you think is going to happen? And not to mention, like, put yourself into the shoes of a man, right? Like, I know it's difficult, but, like, let's imagine for a second. You find an interesting woman and you go out with her, right? You pay for the dinner and she ghosts you. It's like, okay, well, it happened. And then you go with another one, and the same thing happens. And then you go with the third. Do you think you're going to pay the dinner for the fourth? See, this is why I would usually go to a cup of coffee or tea or something. Like, I would never take her to a restaurant because it wasn't the possibility that she would ghost me as much as she could have been just like a crazy person or incredibly boring or I wouldn't like her. And then if you're at a restaurant, you actually have to sit through the whole meal. But if you just get a cup of coffee, you drink it and you leave. So that's a pro gamer move right there. Now, that was the first one, paying for the dinner. Something else that kind of goes hand in hand with this is men not persisting after the woman says no. Because, humans being mammals, we have all of our dating rituals as well. It's a little bit of a dance where the woman pretends sometimes not to be interested and the man pursues. Eventually the woman gives in. It's part of courtship, right? In some cases, obviously, not in everyone. You gotta realize the flow. But basically, like, the woman wants to feel wanted. Like she wants to think that the man is actually fighting for her and is not having like 5 or 6 other ladies lined up so that he can call. This is common sense. But now they're upset. Well, first of all, dating apps exist for men as well, right? So, like, if you're not interested, they do actually have, like, 5 or 6 other women lined up. But the main reason is that no means no, right? Like, didn't feminism teach us this? It's like, teach men not to rape, and that no means no. They don't want to lose their jobs. They don't want to be posted on the internet. They don't want to be called stalkers or harassers. So, like, if you said no, well, okay, plenty of other fish in the sea. And it happens to women that enjoyed this aspect of romanticism. Like, they enjoyed playing hard to get a little bit. And now men don't want to play along. Well, again, like, the culture has changed for a reason. Like, you can't push this type of ideology aggressively and expect nothing to change. And then, of course, there was the other complaint that men don't help women anymore. Like recently, it was a lady that was upset because in front of her, there was a violent thug in the bus, and it took like 3 or 4 women to actually stop the guy because he was actually assaulting another woman, right? And no man did anything, and she was really upset about that. And it's very easy to explain. See, most women are strangers to violence because society protects them, and that's a good thing, right? Like, women shouldn't experience violence, but men often do experience violence in their lives, and we learn really fast that things can escalate. If you get in a fight, you can be injured or worse. Violence is very unpredictable. It doesn't last for long. It's usually 1-2 minutes tops, but it's enough for one person to get physically injured or worse, as I mentioned before. So the question is it worth it, right? Like you want to engage in violence with a stranger, which can probably be on drugs, and he may not even feel what you're trying to do to them. They may have a knife, they may have a gun, you don't know, right? So, like, is it worth engaging with them? Well, it depends, right? In what country you are. If you happen to be in certain places, men have seen on television, and they have seen on the internet, that good Samaritans get punished. Like, no good deed goes unpunished. There have been cases where men did try to intervene, and either they got injured or the government arrested them. Like, getting injured is fine, because usually you make that assessment when you decide to intervene. But getting arrested is not, because you genuinely think that you are doing a good thing. You're trying to save someone. And that should be classified as self-defense, but a couple of prosecutors don't agree. I assume that their family members don't take the bus, so they don't have to deal with that shit. But there are cases in America where they did try to save people, and then they ended up in prison. Because, again, violence is unpredictable. You may just want to restrain the guy, but you're the one that actually ends up injuring them. I don't see, like, women protesting over these decisions. I don't see, like, them trying to do activism in order to change the culture and say, well, hold on, like, this guy was actually defending people. No, usually they side with the criminal. There was this bewildering case that made my jaw drop in New York City. It was in the subway. Like, a woman was getting mugged, and a good Samaritan that happened to be there pulled out a gun. And he asked the mugger to stop. Like, he didn't want to shoot him, but he just wanted to leave the woman alone. And the mugger decides in his infinite wisdom to charge the man with the gun, to which point he fired. And the woman was upset about that. It's like, well, why did you have to fire? Wow, yeah, I was so traumatized. Like, my purse wasn't that important. Other men see this and then they wonder, well, should I risk it? Like, do I know this lady? Is she a family friend? Is she a relative? If she's someone I know, right? Like, this is the society that's being created. I know that not all women are part of this culture, but there is no speaking out, right? Like, there's no defense for the good Samaritan. So, like, the question becomes, would you want your son, right? Because maybe this is how you can reach people. It's like, would you want your son or your husband to intervene and then end up in prison? Is this right? No. Well, in that case, you're going to create a very low trust society. And again, the left is right. Like, silence is compliance. Like, I don't see protests against this. I see complaining, a lot of complaining. Oh, why men don't do this? Why men don't do that? It's like, okay, well, that's the complaining. But what are you doing in order to create the society where men do get to do that? If you want men to do that, then you need gender roles. Right? Because gender roles would mean that other men would keep themselves accountable. And if you happen to be on television where a woman is assaulted and you did nothing, your friends are going to ask you, well, why didn't you do something? What's wrong with you? That could have been your daughter. That could have been your mother, blah, blah, blah. That is a society where gender roles exist, right? Like, men keep each other accountable. But it means that women also need to have gender roles. They also need to be ladylike. They also need to behave in a manner that encourages good Samaritans to do kind gestures. For instance, at least not trying to invite men to dinner when you're not interested in them just so you can have a free meal. Especially if you bring your kids along. Again, like, TikTok is filled with these videos. You don't have to look a lot, like, Twitter is filled with these videos, Reddit is filled with these videos. It's everywhere, right? Like, why are you doing this? Like, do you not... The reason you're doing this is because you don't care about society. Okay, well, if you don't care about society, then you're an atomized individual and live as such. Like, I'm perfectly fine. This is another thing. Some individuals are fine with living as atomized people. Like, I got my family, I got my friends, I got all I need. I just want to be left alone. Other people, not so much. They require the help of others. Well, if you require the help of others, then you need to also behave in a way that you would want people to behave towards you. So, yeah. I found this really interesting. Because, like, this is the 6th video on the subject that I find within a week. So I decided to talk about it. Let me know what you guys think, though. And, as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.